Burns Verkaufen der Kraftwerk definitely gives you a lot to think about. This is a really interesting episode of The Simpsons. Admittedly, it's not one of my personal favourites, but it is very well written, and the narrative is very well developed, and on the one hand, it doesn't take itself too seriously. The Simpsons is very good at doing that. It's very good as well at, while being funny and comedic, tackling quite serious subjects, and this looks at what would happen, or what potentially could happen, if Mr. Burns decided to sell the power plant to a German consortium. And this is exactly what he does here. He begins to think that maybe his years are creeping up on him. He's perhaps not got that long left. He wants to try and experience more of life, and in order to do that, he decides to sell the power plant. But things don't necessarily go according to plan for him or for his, I guess, former employees. There's a really brilliant bit with Smithers where Smithers is practicing German, basically practicing sucking up to his new employers in German, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. It's a really interesting episode. Homer is very quickly singled out as being basically the only person in the company who is lazy and doesn't actually do his job. And it's a very big question of what happens when the company you work for is bought over by somebody else. And this is something that I think a lot of people have faced, a lot of people will continue to face. And it's a very scary concept, because all kinds of changes can happen. And we get to see this kind of thing here and how different people react and what kind of individuals may not be kept on. I think the narrative itself is very well executed. For me personally, it's never going to be one of my favourites. I didn't think it was overly hilarious. There were bits, as I said, for example, the bit with Smithers, that I found really enjoyable, and I really liked those bits. There wasn't anything about it that I didn't like. There was nothing that didn't work well for me, but there were just bits that, as I said, were maybe not quite as entertaining or as engaging for me personally with what I look for in an episode of The Simpsons compared to other episodes. Burns Verkaufen der Kraftwerk is an interesting enough episode. I think they take a subject that affects a lot of people and they deliver it very well, very seriously, but with also a lot of humor in it. The balance is really good. Directed by Mark Kirkland, originally aired in 1991. I'm still not born at this point. I'm not born until March 1992, so it's really weird, discussing these episodes. And I've done about, I don't know, maybe 50 Simpsons discussions so far, and I'm still not born. It's insane to think there are over 700 episodes of this TV show. It's incredible. But yeah, it's a nice episode. I enjoyed watching it. It's one that I haven't seen too often, so it's still quite fresh for me. Obviously one that I'd recommend you watch if you haven't seen it, but it's never going to be my favourite.